Hello everyone, my name is Simon and welcome to a new video about visual. Today we're gonna go over the project settings. Before you jump on this video, I would really suggest you to watch the getting started video for visual if you haven't watched it, because a lot of things I'm gonna go over, assuming you understand how this works, how to navigate and what certain options do. Second, this is version 1.167 alpha. Depending on the version that you have, or when you download Visual, certain options might be named differently. You can have more options. They might be reorganized. Visual is evolving really quickly, so I would suggest to join the Discord and see what are the latest update and the latest build and all of that. In any case, let's get started. To access your project setting, you can click on the Start node, which is the yellow button here. Click on it and it will automatically show up. And if you have a big project and you are lost somewhere on your grid view, you can click the little gear. It will reset your camera and select it automatically. As with everything in Visual, there's no compilation time, so you can click and change option and press play to see the difference. I would really suggest playing with most of these options so you can see directly what's happening. In any case, the first setting is your game title. By default, Visual would call your game the same name as your project name, but you can change that. In my case, I will call it Simon Visual. Press play, change. Perfect. Next is scene scaling. Scene scaling is pretty important because it will define how Visual will handle image, video, and visual motion file as the background, or it will scale them. By default, it will fit them. And let me show you what that means. If I press start, Visual is trying really hard to keep the whole aspect ratio and the whole image in frame. Always, no matter what you resize, Visual will try to fit it in, and then it will fill the rest with the app background color, which we can change. This is the default one. But if you go there and say fill instead, press play. Now Visual is trying to fill your whole thing. And it will crop the image if it needs to and scale it if it needs to. So it fills the whole image for you. This gives a lot of other options later, especially when we'll go over how to make the text container transparent, but that's for in a little bit. In any case, this is a global setting. Each story tile can then override this based on a story tile. So you can set a global setting and then have a story tile changing it. For me, I will leave it to fill so I can show more options with that. Second is the layout. Visual ship with 4 layout as of version 67. Be aware, certain module like the character module or the camera 2D module override this layout completely because they have their own layout in the module. And I would suggest to watch the video for each of those modules to know what's going on with that. But by default, Visual will ship with 4. We might add more as time goes, but basically these are the 4 layouts. And there are really 2 with different options. They are the text on the right layout and the text at the bottom layout. And then it's an option of the image full screen or aspect ratio. Let me show you the difference. Again, press play, start. This is the image full screen with the text on the right. Image full screen with the text at the bottom, or aspect ratio for both of them. Aspect ratio basically create a frame that you can then customize. Same with the other way. And you see again, it's really quick to click, and you can do your whole project and just decide to swap this. There's absolutely no problem with that. Now, before to show the next few options, I will skip a little bit and go to text color. Text and color is your container here. It's all the setting for that container. So the first thing, you can change the font, for example, impact, which looks great, as well as the font size. You can change the main background color, which is basically this one. Imagine the main background color is the color if nothing is showing in front. This is basically your background of your canvas. If nothing is happening, this is the color that will show up. So in this case, this is the color here. And all of those can be also preview here. You see, this is your text container, the text, and the color. So if I start changing things, you can see that this is adapting in the same time. So if I were to put this completely red, press play, you see all of that is red. So let me reset this. Then what you are really interested is the text background color. This is where the text is displayed. And you can see that this one has an opacity system, right? So let's say I'll put this like a dark blue, maybe a bit desaturate, and I'll put it at 60%. Right now, the background color will be the transparency, will be what we see behind. So if I were to press play, start, the transparency is not really seen, it's just that it shows the background color. So let me put this as red like we did before, and now you can see that it's transparent, but it shows the background color. Now let me reset this. And again, take the opacity down a bit. Let's put a bluish like that. Get the preview here. While we're at it, let's change the text color to something maybe like orangey. Okay. Now I go back to this option here with full screen. And I have this option called overlay text panel. By default, it's off. So if I press this, press start, what's happening is that Visual is creating one container for the image and one container for the text. And they don't overlap each other. They stay in their lane. They stay separated. But if you press overlay text panel, and by default it will blur it, but in this case I will just turn it off to show. I click play, start. Now you can see the image goes completely full screen, and then the container overlay on top of it. This is really cool because you can do things like the blur here, where your background is blurred but still visible. And if you have characters, they will show behind that frame as well. This basically makes the rendering of the visual happening behind your text container. So now if I were to change the opacity, I can see behind, but also have a nice color. And this works with video and visual motion file as well. All right. So now let's go back to the frame system. I will turn off overlay text panel. We'll press play. So again, now we are separated, right? Two different things. And the frame system basically lets you override that text container. So if I switch it to frame, this shows you the default template frame. This is just there mainly to show you what's actually happening when you do that, when you change that option. I would really suggest to watch the video about custom frame, which goes in detail about everything you can do with that, because it is extremely powerful to customize your application and your game. Now if I press play and start, now what it did when I select frame mode is that it overlaid this image on top of my container. And obviously you can load your own image there, and it takes opacity. So in this case you can tell that basically it's only a rounded shape frame. So the middle is transparent and you can see through it. But you can do whatever you want with this. Now if I were to switch to full and I press play, this completely replaces it. That means you can have a whole background, but in this case you can't really see it because it shows the background color. You have to think about all of this thing as layer, right? In full, it will remove the container of the text and show whatever is behind. Now the cool thing is that you remember, if we do overlay text panel, the background will become the visual always. So if I press play and start, now you have a frame directly on the picture. And that's where customization can go in a lot of detail. You can have an animated GIF background for your container with, for example, some gradient moving, or some bubble happening, or whatever you want here on top of the actual picture. And you can also still blur it, right? So you can start customizing a lot of things. But again, I would really suggest going into the video about the frame, because this is really powerful and there is a lot of way to do that. But there is something you have to be careful when you create the frame picture. In any case, for us, I will turn it off and I will just use a normal panel. So if I click start, it's back to the blue one. Let's go next to the other option. We cover all of this text. Let me actually change the text to be a bit brighter like that. Okay, this is it. But this button are not changing. That's because they have their own option. So if I go to choice button, that's the next thing. And again, you have a preview here. So the first thing I will go to change is I will make them more purple and colorful. Okay, but like they change color when we're on top of them. I want them super bright, and you can test them here, right? So if I go on top of it, super bright, let me change this to be a darker color. You can see that now they get brighter when we go on top of it. You change opacity a bit. Again, you can test them here. And let me change the text to red. I'm really good with color, as you can tell, but all these options are there. But now you have this also outline here, and you can see it here. What this does is that ViZual allow you to play the game with keyboard and controller. Almost any controller that runs through X input, so Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, whatever works on your PC will work in ViZual. But it won't show it unless you start playing with a keyboard. So while this is open, I switch to keyboard and I can start playing this. Now you can see the outline, and this is where you can customize it as well. So let me choose a bit better color for this so we see it a bit better. Let me see how it looks here, and then the text, let me put it back to white, okay. And then the keyboard outline, let me put something like a nice blue. Now I put this, okay. Now you can see I can do this. The thing is that, what if you want this with the mouse as well? Well, you can, you just have to check the option. By default it's off, but if you check it on, now the outline will also follow your mouse. So you can have that if you want. The other cool thing is that you can change, of course, the thickness, but if you go to infinity, it will be a complete overlay. So now when the mouse moves, it changed the color of your button. And you can have two completely different color, right? I can have like, you see that they completely change the color. So again, a way to customize everything inside your project. So let me save this, and let's go to the next menu. So I'll minimize this, minimize this. Again, I know it's a lot, and there might be a lot of more option, but the beauty is that you can change any option at any time while you create your project, and just press play. There is no breaking in information. There is no, you can develop your whole thing with one specific color and then change it at the end, or one specific layout and change it. In any case, the next one is the splash screen. The splash screen is only for exported desktop app. That is the splash screen when you start the game. There will be a splash screen when the game starts, before everything is loaded. If you do not select anything, there it will just be the ViZual logo. So I would suggest to create one, you know, with a nice title maybe, and a nice picture, etc. That's where you set it up. The next is your starting menu. The starting menu can also have a background image and its own music. So if I were to press play right now, this is the starting menu. This is my background, my container, and my text with my button. Oh, by the way, there is also setting where user can change default setting. Let me actually reset. But you can change that in the starting menu. So let's do a background. I will do this one. You can preview it here, and let me add a music. You can preview the music here. We put the volume a bit lower, and now if I were to press play, suddenly my project starting menu changed quite a bit. And if I start, it stopped all of that, right? Alright, so now I get that. You can obviously loop the music as well. The next is your global setting. This affects the whole project. There is no override. This basically takes over everything. The first one, and I talked about it in the getting started, is the typewriter effect. So let me write a bit more here. Time to go home. It was a long day. Press play, start. And this is what's happening, right? And you can click and it will automatically skip to the end, right? And again, I talk about it in the getting started. I would suggest checking that. You have also a speed here. So you can do speed 2, and it writes really fast or very slow. Very slow. The thing is that this speed, and there is the option here, it's only working if you do not have a voiceover. If you go to your story tile and you actually use a voiceover for your text or audio file, the typewriter will automatically sync to that audio. So basically the text will appear as the person is talking and in the same speed. So this is only working if there is no voiceover. The typewriter effect will work, but just the speed. Next is background music fade. I go over that in the getting started. Is how long it takes for music to fade from one tile to another if there is two different type of music. This is also global. You cannot change it per tile. It's project settings. And finally, in the global setting, you have the scroll bar. ViZual will use whatever system and theme the OS has. That means people on Windows will have the Windows bar, people on Mac will have the Mac bar, and they will be the same color as they have in their Windows. It will basically copy everything from your Windows. In my case, my Windows bar is this gray bar here, so let's add a bit more text to show you. If I were to press play, start, you can see this is the scroll bar I'm talking about. It copies exactly the same that I have on my window. Click OK. But if you want, you can also create your own and have ViZual overwriting the system. So in that case, you switch to ViZual themed. Let me save this. And by default, it's a gray with 90% opacity and 10 pixel width. So if I were to do that, is this. In my case, it doesn't work that well. Let's make it crazy orange, almost no opacity, super large. There you go. So you can also adjust that. Again, up to you. Finally, in the project setting, there is everything that's development tool. These do not really affect visually your project, and they are more based on the way you develop the software. So one option is also for the project, but let's go over the first thing. First is your play window size. By default, it would be 800 by 600, and you can have, let me move the music away from here. You can have some preset, including vertical preset, in case you develop for mobile. And also you can decide how to align it. So for example, if you want always your play window to show up at the bottom right, etc., etc. This is just your play window size, right? It's in your own computer while you're developing. The next option is show story tile during play. This is great for debug. This will not be shown in the game when you ship it. Okay, this is just for you when you are working. And what this does is that each story tile has a basically title that you can name it, right? Park video, etc., etc. So when you play, when this option is on, and it's on by default, and you play, you will see the title here every time. Alright, if you don't want to show that, you want to experience it as the player will experience, just uncheck it and it will disappear. Now, the next one is remove rewind for export. Rewind is basically a way for the player or you to go back in time. It works for tile to tile, but it also works with module like the character module where it goes back to the step previously. So if you have two characters talking with each other, you can go back even before to have a choice. What this does is a nice way to basically have the option to start. Okay, I will go to the park. No, never mind. I want to try the other one. And that's the little icon up here, rewind. Then you'll go back the story tile before. You can also do it by pressing the middle mouse button or backspace on the keyboard. Now, Rewind is automatically removed for export. That means that when you create the game and you export it, the player will not have access to it, neither through shortcut nor with icon. If you uncheck this, when you export, the player will have access to the rewind option as well, either with the icon if it's showing up, and if you want to hide the icon, just by pressing the keyboard or the mouse button. And in the controller is the B button. So it's up to you to have it ship or not. By default, it doesn't ship and show only in development. Up to you. Lastly is advanced display and is dim unrelated node. And to show you that, I would need to create a few more nodes. All right. And go back in there, development tool, advanced display. What this does is that when you select a node, it would show you only the directly connected node to it. Everything else will dim. This is useful when you have something really big and you want to see only like a specific path, okay, where this is going, where's that. And then lastly, again, is that you can also reset to default. You have option to reset to default each of them separately, or you can reset everything to default. Be careful, there is no undo for that. So I do reset to default, play, and we're back to normal. In any case, this is about the project setting. Project setting evolve really quickly. There's a lot of options. If you have idea, please ping me on Discord. I'm always happy to implement new thing or to discuss it. Once again, my name is Simon. You can download ViZual for free on visual.space, our website. And please join our Discord. My DM are open. I'm always happy to chat. And I cannot wait to see what you all do with this. Thank you, and see you in the next video.